Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, joined as ever by Riley Fessler. How are you doing, Riley?
Pretty good.
And by Minna Stein. How are you, Minna?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for asking. So here we are. We're getting towards the end of this week. Lots going on. Today, Washington is particularly going to be focused on the funeral of Jimmy Carter. In fact, today is a national holiday. A lot of people may not realize that, but it has been made a national holiday to honor Jimmy Carter. And he deserves the honor, not only an effective president and a dedicated public servant, but the best ex-president we ever had, and lived a life that I think a lot of our leaders should understand and emulate. And clearly, some of our leaders will not. What do you have to kick us off here today, Riley?
I'm kicking us off today.
Oh, you are kicking us off
I
today.
am.
Okay, well, then you do it. Take the burden, shoulder the load for Riley.
Yes. And I will say, we talked about this yesterday, but Jimmy Carter's casket was in D.C. yesterday in the Capitol. And I went last night and paid my respects. And it was a very lovely tribute to him. So,
Were there a lot of people there?
There were so many more people there than I could have ever imagined. Like, that was just a beautiful tribute to his legacy in the first place, that many people showed up. My brother waited in line for almost 4 hours. That's how long the line was at night. So people got off work and went to go pay their respects.
In the frigid January temperature.
The feels like when I was there waiting was 10.
Wow.
So,
wow. Well, good for you. Good for your brother. And it's good to know people understand what matters in this country. That's probably not your lead story, although it's an interesting one.
It is not my lead story. My lead story is Germany has responded to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's comments about Greenland, Canada, and the Panama Canal, affirming its commitment to the international principle that borders should not be changed by force. A German government spokesperson reiterated the importance of the United Nations Charter and the Helsinki Accords, which uphold the inviolability of borders. When asked how seriously Germany took Trump's statement, the spokesperson declined to comment further.
Yeah, well, that does seem to be the $64,000 question here. I was on MSNBC last night, and that was the question. Do we take it seriously or do we not take it serious? I wrote about it in my Substack. We talked about it on our DSR podcast yesterday. And I think the answer is this. It is unlikely Trump is going to be able to follow through on these things. But and we should not get wound up about every crazy thing that Trump says. Canada is not going to become the 51st state. Every notable Canadian leader has already made that clear. But might Trump be serious about Greenland? Yeah, he might. He sent his son there the other day, and there was a CNN story saying advisors around Trump are saying, yeah, he's serious about this. And they do seem to be searching for all sorts of precedent of U.S. historical interest in Greenland. But having said that, the Denmark and the Danish government do not seem to be in the mood to sell Greenland. The people of Greenland are in the midst of their own decision about whether they wish to be independent or not. They get a lot of benefits from Denmark they would not get from the United States: free education, free healthcare, and so forth. And the United States already has a military base there. What might this result in? Maybe another military base there. It might result in, some other kind of accord that has to do with, mineral access. But I don't think it's going to happen that way. Having said that, the damage that is being done to America's standing is serious, because Trump is essentially saying, yeah, I'm going to behave by Putin rules, not international law. I'm going to ignore the post-World War II global consensus, the order that we set up, and that's worrisome. That is something that is consistent with his first term. His first term involved a great deal of sort of setting aside the world order that we believed in. The Russians love it. They've been talking about how great it is that Trump is saying this kind of thing. And that, again, is the kind of sign of the damage it's doing. But it's also being compounded by other actions of senior Trump people. And I think that's Riley's top story.
Lebanon's parliament has ended a
No,
prolonged...
it's not Riley's top story.
I didn't know how to break it to you.
Story. Why don't you do your second story first?
Sure. Elon Musk, fresh from supporting Donald Trump's re-election bid, has shifted focus to European politics, raising concerns among leaders across the continent. Using his social media platform X, Musk has endorsed far-right figures, including Germany's Alternative for Germany party, criticized British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and engaged in inflammatory rhetoric. Musk's outspoken political stances, often amplifying far-right narratives, have led to investigation under the EU's Digital Services Act and scrutiny over potential foreign interference.
Yeah, it is foreign interference. This is exactly the kind of foreign interference in elections that Putin has engaged in. It actually supports all of Putin's goals. I don't think we should ignore that. But take that in conjunction with Trump's statements, and you have a strong statement being sent by the two most prominent people associated with the next administration, that the United States is not going to be the dependable defender of the rule of law, democracy, and our allies, that the United States has at least sought to portray itself as during the course of the past 80 years.
Israeli airstrikes killed dozens in Gaza on Wednesday, including 10 people in the Sheikh Radwan neighborhood of Gaza City and many others. Efforts to secure a ceasefire led by the US, Qatar, and Egypt continue amid mounting casualties, with 46,000 Palestinians killed in the ongoing conflict. Talks are intensifying with a focus on hostages, including an Israeli Bedouin whose body was recovered near Rafah, and the critical situation of Gaza's hospitals due to fuel shortages.
Again, we have to look at these things in the context of what we expect. And I think what we expect is more of this. I think under the new U.S. administration, with its essentially blank check support for the Israelis, you can expect more of this. And I was speaking to an expert yesterday who's been studying the region for a while. I think you can expect some different kinds of escalation in Israeli activity towards Palestinians in the months ahead, including annexations in the West Bank, continuing efforts to depopulate northern Gaza, perhaps settle it with Israelis, and gradually begin the process of annexing that as well, shrinking the Palestinian territories, making it harder and harder for the Palestinians to live, and also creating obstacles to the kind of humanitarian relief and rebuilding that are so essential for the 2 million people, the 2 million Palestinians who remain in the territories.
Lebanon's parliament has ended a prolonged political stalemate by electing U.S.-backed Army Chief Joseph Aoun as the country's new president. The election, following 12 failed attempts since former President Michel Aoun's term ended in October 2022, was facilitated...
Michel Aoun, no relation to Joseph Aoun.
Yeah, which is important to note. Which was facilitated by Saudi and U.S. efforts to rally support for Joseph Aoun, who is aligned with Western interests. Hezbollah, traditionally backed by Iran and its ally Amal, ultimately supported Aoun in the second round of voting, securing his victory with 99 out of 128 parliamentary votes. As part of Lebanon's sectarian power-sharing system, the presidency is reserved for a Maronite Christian, and Aoun has stepped down from his military role to assume the civilian office.
There's been a political void in Lebanon for a long time, with the decimation of Hezbollah, the decapitation of Hezbollah by the Israelis, and thus the weakening of Hezbollah within Lebanon. The Lebanese with whom I speak uh, uh, are hopeful. That hasn't been the case in a long time. Do they expect, efficient, effective government right away? No. Do they expect better governance, less violence, possible steps towards rebuilding and recovering from the recent the fighting? Yeah, they do, and I think this is a hopeful moment for them. You know.
As Donald Trump's inauguration nears, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his pick to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, is facing a legal challenge over alleged voter fraud. The watchdog group, Accountable.us, filed a complaint claiming Kennedy committed felony election fraud by voting in the 2024 election from a New York address where he does not legally reside. Kennedy's residence in Katona, New York, has been the subject of previous legal challenges, and the complaint comes as he prepares for Senate confirmation hearings where he may face questions about the allegations under oath.
Yeah, I mean, given Kennedy's views towards, I don't know, vaccines, polio, healthcare, raw milk, COVID, I don't know, roadkill. There are a lot of questions that Kennedy is going to face. I will tell you that right now, that I think there are a lot of people who think he may get in anyway as Secretary of Health and Human Services, which is just, it's mind-boggling. It's almost as if Trump said, let me go and find the person who is least qualified in the United States, with the most extreme views, the least experience, and somebody who is likely to compound the mistakes made the last time around by Trump, and will make him Secretary of Health and Human Services. We will not see that hearing among the first, I don't think, of the Trump nominees. I think on the 14th and 15th and 16th, we start to see people like Marco Rubio, Pam Bondi, and others. They all have questions lurking around them. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see whether anybody stands up to the core group of those who are not qualified. And I don't mean Rubio. Rubio is going to pass through without, I think, a hitch. He's pretty qualified. I think everybody accepts that. And a bunch of the others are. I don't think Pam Bondi is going to face a lot of resistance. But Hegseth and Gabbard and RFK Jr. and Kash Patel all seem to be the ones with red flashing lights around them. And we'll see how it goes. But, we're in a interesting period here. And I think we all ought to stop and note how different it is from similar periods like this. Because normally, the week or two before a presidential inauguration, the old president's the center of attention. The old president's running the country. The old president's making the headlines. The old government is, what's happening. And we've got Trump with both barrels 24/7 dominating the headlines, and having the entire world on edge. That includes the stories we talked about with Greenland, Canada, and Panama. It includes threats of tariffs and trade war. It includes Musk attacking our allies. It includes Trump yesterday continuing to say things about the governor of California in the midst of the worst wildfire incidents LA has ever seen. We also have, Trumpian comments and those by those around him that are neglecting the fact that these wildfires are actually a direct result of climate change. Trump is trying to blame it on the Democratic governor of California for his forest management and his water policies. And we know that Trump in the past has withheld support for Democratic states, even when they needed it. In fact, that led some people to leave his last administration. And I think, this is going to come to a head pretty quickly. President Biden has stepped up very quickly to back California in the absolutely horrific circumstances. But we do know, and we are seeing on a daily basis, Trump politicizing them, Trump's people minimizing the climate change roots of this, nobody stepping away from the plans of the Trump team to take steps that will actually exacerbate these problems. I think I heard yesterday that of the 20 worst wildfire incidents in California history, 15 have happened in the last 10 years. So, this is something material has changed. Maybe the fact that the people who are being burned out this time are rich and powerful will have an impact. Maybe the fact that they're, largely associated with LA and an LA community that Trump doesn't like, may also have an impact. But around the world right now, people are on edge because their hopes for an administration that was not going to reenact some of the more extreme efforts of the last one, where you might get a mellower, older Trump, and more of a desire to not be inflammatory, not be extreme. Those hopes seem to be fading pretty quickly. Now, yesterday on our podcast, Rosa Brooks made the point that if we're lucky, what we'll see more of is something else we saw at the Trump press conference this week, which is signs of kleptocracy, signs that Trump and his family and the people around Trump end up focused more on how do they cash in on controlling the country than signs of political extremism or desire to blow up our institutions or our alliances or our allies, or the world order that has been in shape for the past 80 years. But we don't know. So I think we have to go into it with our eyes wide open. I think we have to try not to overreact to the most extreme things he says. He loves getting the attention. But I think we do have to be wary because some of these signs are concerning. We'll track them right here at the DSR Daily every single day. Well, 5 days a week, but that counts. That's like every day. You don't want this on the weekends. You want to take a break, go walk your dog, be outside, be with your family. We can overstate the importance of politics and foreign policy and national security, as most people in the media do. The really important stuff in your life is your family, enjoying yourself, getting sort of in spiritual touch with whatever, you connect with spiritually. I don't know, listening to music, having a nice meal. So that's what the weekends are for, and that's why you don't get us on the weekends. But every day you'll get us, and you'll get our other podcasts, all here at the DSR Network. We hope you will join us. Hope you will watch our podcasts evolve, and you'll tell us what you think. And in fact, we will build in a couple of things, which we'll announce probably next week, where they're more of a chance, particularly for our members, to pose questions. We'd like you to do that, and we will respond to them. Until then, thanks, Riley. Thanks, Minna. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Bye-bye.